Welcome back to Pop Culture Kaboom's radio show. Everything you want, everything you need in pop culture entertainment. Secrets of Heritage House. KNBC 95.1 FM's original science fiction science fiction horror supernatural thriller, I should say, will be starting season 2 Sunday, April 4th, right after Pop Culture Kaboom's radio show. So you want to stay tuned in after 9 p.m. to catch the very first episode of season 2 of Secrets of Heritage House, April 4th. So that's coming up here real soon. And right now on the phone with me live from the UK is the award-winning writer and director, Mr. David Creed. And how are you, sir?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for being on. What time is it actually over there in the UK?
It's 3 o'clock in the morning.
Ooh, ouch. Ooh, well, I appreciate you staying up. That is an ungodly hour. I don't care how you look at it. I mean, that's like, wow.
No problem.
All right. So you got Sacrilege. We covered that in our movie segment right before you came on because it is being released this Tuesday, March 16th in the U.S. and in Canada. It has already had its cinema debut over there in the U.K. So it's already been in theaters, but unfortunately it's not going to be in theaters here. And that is your first feature film, correct?
Yes, yeah, my first feature. Yeah, I've been in the industry quite a while. Did the usual thing of starting as a runner and kind of PA, and I became a grip, and eventually, finally managed to get my first feature done.
Awesome. And you're the writer or co-writer and director of Sacrilege. So is going into horror as your first film, was that something, a kind of a conscious choice? Is that something like, I want to really make a horror movie? How did that come about to a horror movie being your first feature film?
Yeah, I wrote the whole thing. I've always loved horror since I was young. Big fan of horror novels. The first book I ever read was The Rat by James Herbert and Carrie by Stephen King. So I kind of always loved horror and just wanted to make a horror movie.
So what was the first horror movie that you could remember seeing? Because I think you and I are about the same age, but I grew up watching them every Saturday and Sunday. So my horror movie history starts back when I was like literally, 4 or 5 years old and watching Boris Karloff and Vincent Price and I didn't even know horror movies were in color until I saw The Blob, because everything I saw up to that point was in black and white. So I loved Them. That was a great one. There's some weird one too with these crystal things that were because of water or something. There were these black crystals that were growing, and if you touch them, they'd grow on you. And weird science fiction movies like that. I was always watching stuff like that. So what is your first horror movie memory that made you say, you know what, I just love horror?
Yeah, for me it was Body Snatchers.
Ooh, the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers. That one was kind of
1957 or something like that. It was crazy years old, but I think that's what my parents would allow me to watch at that age. And not old enough, thankfully, to see it originally in 1957, but. It was the black and white ones, the Wolfman, Creature from the Black Lagoon were my parents allowed me to watch those because they didn't think they were that scary for me. So those were my kind of introductions. But they were just really fun movies. They just take you to a different place, and and they kind of still creeped me out as a kid, and that kind of got me into horror. The first horror movie, or the first movie that I saw that kind of scared me, what wasn't really a horror movie though. I kind of managed to sneak in and watch The Dark Crystal when it first came out.
Those Skeksis, those things were creepy, weren't they?
Oh man, alive! Yeah, those things scared the living daylights out of me. And I chanced my arm because it was me and a mate, and we just sort of I went to a local cinema in a place called Southend in Essex, and managed to convince the ushers that we were with this parent that was in front of us, and they let us in. But we were too young to go in, really. But
Well, I'm going to mention this now, but I am going to come back around to this later on in the interview. But in that time period with the Wolfman and Frankenstein and Lon Chaney Jr., doing the Wolfman, Boris Karloff doing Frankenstein, the Mummy with what's his name? Who did the Mummy, Bill? I can't remember. It was somebody famous too, which is sad.
Boris Karloff was the Mummy, wasn't he?
Yeah,
he did the Mummy too.
Boris Karloff did the Mummy as well.
Wow, he was he did all the horror icons then, because he was also the original creature in the Thing from Another Planet. So the original version of the Thing. So he played all kinds of critters. But with all of these movies, everything's been remade except the Creature from the Black Lagoon. That is the only one. The only one that even came close was, Guillermo del Toro did The Shape of Water, which was similar, but it wasn't actually a Black Lagoon kind of reboot remake. So, but I just always found that interesting that The Creature from the Black Lagoon, because you mentioned it, has been one of those that's never been remade.
Who was the original creature?
I have no idea. He wore a mask.
Doesn't matter.
It was an actual creature, and that's why he's only made one movie.
There you go. Well, there was the son of the Creature from the Black Lagoon. I know they made a sequel, but like 2 years later or something like that. But yeah, in modern times, there's never been a remake, so there's never been an in color version of the Creature from the Black Lagoon. And I always found out, and he was one of my favorites too. Out of all of the creature monsters, he was my favorite for some unknown reason. Probably because I lived in Florida. So Aquatic was.
Yeah, me too. I think the thing is with modern horror as well, they tend to because the creature was very sympathetic, wasn't it? In the original movie, it was very much like I guess they were attacking it, and you saw it a bit more from its perspective and how it fell in love, etc., etc. And I think that's why Shape of Water did well. But I think the modern cinema likes to make monsters evil. It's very rarely are the monsters kind of sympathetic.
True.
Maybe, I don't know.
Oh, well, here's a couple. On both spectrums of that, a couple of good examples was Clive Barker's Nightbreed. You actually cheered for the monsters in that movie. I don't know if you ever saw that one. But then
yeah, I've got it on DVD. Yeah.
And then on the flip side of that was Pumpkinhead. And Rawhead Rex, which was still another Clive Barker, where you didn't really cheer for him, but you just kind of watched him kind of just destroy things. And I liked Pumpkinhead because he didn't mess around. He came into the movie and he went straight into just wiping people out. I mean, and some of the ways he toyed with them right before he killed them was hilarious. But I got a dark sense of humor, so. But we're going to talk about.
It's funny. I love those kind of movies. I think where sometimes it's the supposed bad guy isn't overcomplicated.
Yeah, they're great.
No other hidden agenda. It's just like it's taking you out, man.
So you have a film company called Bad Blood Films, and it is a production company developing a slate of horror and thriller feature films that will scare, shock, and downright creep you out. Sacrilege, which was the first film to go from Bad Blood Films. So what is Sacrilege? I mean, I read the synopsis earlier, and which I'll read again here real quick. After accepting an invitation to join with local celebrations for the summer solstice, 4 young women find themselves in the grips of a mysterious pagan cult. They are offered up as a sacrifice to the cult's mysterious ancient goddess who has the ability to sense their greatest fears. Using this power against them, she turns their nightmares into horrifying reality. I didn't read it like that, though. But Sacrilege. You're a co-writer and you're the director of this film. We kind of went into heavy.
Yeah, I wrote it completely.
I'm sorry?
It was just me, the writer. I was the only writer.
So you wrote and directed this film. We went into detail because, unfortunately, your film's coming out in the U.S. on VOD the same week as Zack Snyder's Justice League is coming out on HBO Max. So you have some pretty heavy competition. So we might have to call that alternative programming. Very alternative because it's a completely different genre altogether. But so with Sacrilege, though, because we went into detail about the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League, and how it's supposedly going to be different from the original release. Being the director and the writer, is Sacrilege, did it meet your vision? I mean, there's only a certain time frame in which you can work with a feature film. Did, from beginning to end, though, from writing process to final edit, did it meet your expectations as far as the film itself?
Almost, yeah. I mean, we probably had, the budget for our entire film was probably enough to supply toilet paper to Zack Snyder himself, I think, and that was it. But it's always difficult, isn't it? Because when you're starting from somewhere where you're, the entire budget that Mark, the producer, and I pulled together was from family and friends. So, it was what have we got and what can we make on what we've got. So, I think I'm very proud of what we made. But, when you don't have all the money and you are reaching, you have to reach a certain point where you say, right, well, we need to stop trying to raise more and just make a movie. So there are always limitations on special effects and having a bit more time to kind of really drill down and make sure you can shoot absolutely everything. But there are scenes that we didn't include. We just couldn't afford to include them in the end. Very proud of it. But it's probably 90% of what I could have achieved, I think.
So with that being said, does that mean if and when Bad Blood Films garners a little bit more success, has a couple more films under its belt, can has a little in the red or into black, shall we say, financially, we revisit and provide people with that what sounds like an alternate ending to Sacrilege?
Do you know what? That'd be a really lovely idea. I would definitely love to do that. Yeah, well, that would be cool. Because genuinely, we effectively, the extra scenes kind of left. We had to leave out an additional character and a kind of an ending that would have kind of tied it up at the end. Really, kind of let it open a little bit more and we would have seen more with the main villain, Father Saxon. There would be a few more scenes in there with him. That would be fun to do, especially because working with Ian Champion, who played Father Saxon, was a joy. He was just a great kind of I wanted him to be like a throwback to the sort of Hammer horror villains, Christopher Lee kind of style characters, and that'd be a really cool idea. Actually, I'd like to do that.
Well, I love being amused to people and, helping them with so I get 10% though. I'm just kidding. So with Sacrilege,
no problem. I can say no problem. It's just that my producer.
If he's listening, he's like, "Well, I have a problem." He says, "No problem," but I got one. So with Sacrilege, though, you guys released in the cinema on March 6th. So that then the cinema is the theaters over there in the UK. You're up and coming, though. You're going to be part of the, it's been accepted as one of the 2021 spring nominees for the Virtual Horror Hound Film Fest, which is going to be coming up. And you guys got some pretty stiff competition there, too. So, I mean, nothing's coming easy for you. Yeah. I mean, the week you're releasing in the U.S., you're up against Justice League, and now you got this stiff competition in the Horror Hound Film Festival. So it's kind of rough going, but, you guys you're up for Best Feature, Best Special Effects, and even though you said, you wish you had more money to do the special effects better, but, you're up for awards for it, so that's kudos for that.
Yeah, it's really nice, right? Because, obviously, I'm sure you guys know, there's just so many people working so hard to make sure that the film gets made and gets made well, and, yes, we could have. You can always do more, right? And, you can always throw money at something. But I think ultimately, I've been a big believer in practical effects. Going back to, what we were saying about the old black and whites and the Universal monsters and stuff like that. They did all that stuff practically, so we kind of did as much as we could practically as well. So, the Burning Man opening scene, for instance, is an actual stunt guy set himself on fire. So, it's and looking at the competition, even getting officially selected for Horror Howl was a massive achievement. So for them to then tell you, out of all the other movies that we actually got nominated is fantastic. So yeah, if we don't win, we don't win. It's just nice to be nominated.
So I got to take a hard break here because I'm already 20 minutes into the conversation. But when we get back, I'm going to be speaking more with David Creed. I'm going to really delve into what Bad Blood Films is all about, because the Sacrilege isn't the only thing that they've done, and they got a whole lot more coming up. Already, though, Sacrilege has an official selection for Bloodstained International Horror Bowl Movies Awards, Horror Bowl for official selection, and winner of the Best Concept, and also the official selection for the Russian International Award. So lots of awards coming Sacrilege's way, and so there's a lot more, though, that Bad Blood Films has done that we will be talking about. So more Pop Culture Kaboom's radio show with Mr. David Creed right after this. I think if Andy turned down the music in that promo, he wouldn't have had to yell. He sounds kind of like a used car salesman in a way, if you think about it. Welcome back to Pop Culture Kaboom's radio show, where everything you want, everything you need in pop culture entertainment. And I'm not going to scream like Andy! But anyway, I am on the phone with Mr. David Creed. He is my interview this week. We're talking about his film company, Bad Blood Films, and the movie Sacrilege, which is out on VOD and Blu-ray and DVD this Tuesday, March 16th, here in the U.S. and in Canada. And of course, it was already in the theaters in the U.K. So how was that whole experience? I mean, to actually have a movie that you did air in or shown in a cinema.
Yeah, it was kind of surreal. Certainly in the UK, the place that you have your, you go to see the big premieres. I remember I was lucky enough to go and watch Hateful Eight, Tarantino's movie, and that premiered because my business partner and friend, Mark Kenner, is a member of BAFTA, so we got tickets to go and see that, and it's surreal. It was genuinely walking down a red carpet to go in and watch the movie, and it's really, really kind of weird. I just thought we were just going to turn up and watch it.
Really weird, because it was your movie.
The press everywhere. Yeah, so kind of like that's where we ended up premiering Sacrilege, was in Leicester Square, the Empire, which hugely famous movie theatre, and it's a really, really bizarre experience because you're there watching it with all the other movies, and you invited along, and we had I think it was nearly 400 people
wow,
turn up for the premiere, and it's great. It's lovely. Yeah, it was really lovely, and all the guys from Cineworld that held the premiere for us, and then took the movie on. They showed it all across the UK and over 40 screens. Which is a lot for the UK. I know you guys have thousands, and so it was a really kind of it was a great kind of moment, especially for everybody that helped us get there.
Well, I'm a musician, and so when I have a new song that I've been working on that I have somebody listen to the first time, I really, really kind of just try and read their reaction. Did you catch yourself doing that when when people were watching your film? Were you kind of looking around the theater at people and trying to gauge their reactions on if they were liking it, or how they would with an upcoming jump scare, or if you knew something really disturbing was coming up, like the lady that's in the trailer where she's looking in the mirror and all of a sudden she's 3,000 years old. And since you know what's coming, did you kind of look around and to try and gauge people's reactions?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny, isn't it? Because when you're going through that process, of getting the film finished, up to that point of the premiere, I'd seen the movie, the whole finished film, probably 20 times. So you kind of think, oh, I know the movie, but then you're right. You're sat there and you're with an editor or sound designer or grader and stuff like that. So you're just working it from their point of view. So I didn't really watch the film. I was doing that. I was sort of sat in the audience and kind of just looking around and thankfully, it looked like they were laughing in the right places where it was supposed to be funny, and then kind of jumping and cringing at the points when there were deaths and blood and bits and pieces. So, it's a bit of a surreal experience, isn't it? Yeah.
Bits and pieces. Well, that makes me wonder now about this movie, because there was no bits and pieces in the trailer. Yes, Bill.
Yeah, my question is, apparently I haven't seen the trailer, so but apparently there's a lot of humor and I'm curious, where do American and British humor overlap?
Well, I don't know if he's a good person to answer. That'd be like a John Cleese question, because I've grown up watching Monty Python, so I can.
Well, you must have had to try to make it funny for everybody, so I've got to. Well, I got to ask.
Well, it's funny, isn't it? I think we're lucky in the sense that British humour tends to be very slapstick, I think, and quite sarcastic, but. Because especially over here, we kind of pull in as much Americana as we can, because it fascinates us. I've been to America numerous times. I got married in Las Vegas. Toured America with my wife. So you kind of lap it up. So I think we kind of already have a very good sense of American humour in that in that sense. So. It hopefully wasn't too difficult to kind of pull that in, if you know what I mean, because I was already infused with that kind of sense of humour, I feel.
And to be fair, of course, Americans are stealing everything from British television anyway.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just what was the most recent thing?
It just goes full circle.
It's like, did it work over there? Okay, we'll do that.
Well, what was the most recent one? The Watch, which is on BBC America. That one was a direct port over from BBC One.
One I really loved was Life on Mars, and I have to say I like the British version a lot better. But
right.
What was that one that was on Netflix? That was
and you guys did well with The Office, didn't you?
Yeah, we did, and you guys had a version of it first, right?
Yeah, but then you took it over. Yeah. But again, it's really fun because I find myself watching the American version.
Just make sure you had lots of stuff in there that we can steal. We'll be happy.
Nice. Or what was that one with House of Cards? That was a British show too before Kevin Spacey got it, and so so us Americans are always stealing your guys' ideas. I tell you, we want our independence, and then we take everything from you. What does that tell you? Anyway. So with Bad Blood,
and then all we do is we just take it back.
Yeah, that's true. Well, you guys come up with better ideas, like Sacrilege. A very interesting concept with Sacrilege. How did you come up with the concept, since you're the writer and the director, of this kind of weird pagan cult, and the kind of weird, kind of like what's the best way to describe it? If you watch Time Bandits, the kind of Minotaurs and Time Bandits is kind of this thing that they're worshiping out there in the middle of nowhere. So what inspired you to, what was the catalyst to the story? What caused you to come up with it?
It was a couple of things. I was in the military for a number of years, and I remember being out in Bosnia during the Bosnian War, and was just, I was on guard duty, and I was kind of talking to some of the guys there, and talking about what was going on, and then one of them said, "Oh, actually, yeah, that's scary, but one of my fears is," and he said dogs, and one of them said rats, and some was claustrophobic and stuff, and I just remember them all kind of. I'm like, guys, we're actually in the middle of a war zone, and you're more scared of waking up and seeing a rat gnawing at your foot than you are bomb going off or something like that. And I was like, okay, weird people, and but it kind of stuck with me that that in all of this kind of chaos and sort of literal horror, those were the things they were scared of. So it kind of stayed with me, and I thought that would be a good kind of place to start with a horror movie, just actually pulling on people's fears, and the actual kind of setting for the pagan cult, etc. is just from my love of kind of old school British folklore horror. It's kind of one of the things we have is a lot of that, especially in Europe and Great Britain. We've got all the pagan cults, and one of my favourite movies of all time is The Wicker Man, and even a fairly recent movie called The Ritual. It was done over here. I love that. It's kind of very mysterious, and going back to what we were saying about money, etc. The character of Mabon, this goddess in the movie, originally we did have designed by Konstantin Sacrilege, who was the guy behind the vampire designs in Blade 2. And he did this design. The creature itself, the goddess, was an actual figure. So we had a woman in a suit, effectively. But yeah, we couldn't afford that. So we had to kind of come down on that.
Maybe for the sequel.
So that's kind of where it came from. Yeah, well, do you see? It's funny you say that, because we have been talking about that.
Oh, really?
And, because that whole thing, hopefully he's left, that Father Saxon's still the instigator of it all, and can bring her back without giving too much away.
So with the talks about a sequel, is it because do you feel that there's more story to tell in the Sacrilege universe? Or is it something that, now that the movie's done, are you looking at it and going, I can build this into a franchise, kind of like a Freddy Krueger or, a Nightmare on Elm Street kind of a, franchise?
Yeah, I've always been fascinated by kind of, when people create those worlds and these spin-offs. I remember Breaking Bad, and then they made Better Call Saul, and maybe it is, to call the word sacrilege, but I prefer Better Call Saul. I just thought I really, really liked that show. So it's kind of, I think Father Saxon is certainly a character that I've been playing around with, and looking at ways of kind of, there was a prequel kind of idea that I had, and then there's another, again, a sequel, I suppose. It's still in the same world, but not like a direct sequel that's related to all the characters that were before, but it kind of moves around, shows a bit more, expands on it in a way that I think Hellraiser did with Hellraiser 2. I really like Hellraiser 2, and
Now, with going,
that would be fun to do, but
Well, going forward with it, I mean, it's something that is actually going to move forward, right? I mean, because there's nothing I'm not a prequel guy, so I always feel that once you make a film to go forward with a franchise, there's one director I interviewed before. He did the first movie, the second movie, the third movie was a prequel, and then there's a fourth movie. And I'm like, okay, now I know which order to watch them in: 3, 1, 2, 4. So, is there is it Sacrilege going to move forward, and are you going to get more into this cult and the goddess itself moving forward? As I know, it's kind of early production for it, and it's just kind of being tossed around. But is there something you can see more told as far as the Sacrilege story? I mean, do you have a lot of ideas floating around in your head regarding that?
Yeah. I kind of I always tend to write a lot of backstory first, and then almost create the world itself and where would this go, and there's very much the room for it being introduced. I wanted to introduce the idea of Mabon, the goddess, being introduced into kind of people's kind of Christmas festivities and things like that. Because one of my favourite kind of fairly recent movies is Krampus, which I just thought was a great fun horror Christmas movie.
Yeah, it was.
And it was the idea that you have that where people kind of worship that, and they don't know what they're worshipping. They just go, oh, it's a tradition. There's lots of traditions are horrible things, but people just gloss over them and just go, yeah, it's tradition. We celebrate it. And you're like, no, that's really rather horrible. But so it was kind of getting into the idea of that, and expanding the idea that they were celebrating something, but they didn't actually know what they were celebrating, and then they don't celebrate it in the right way, and then that kind of brings on all these fears. Because I think the great thing about something that can manifest your own fears is that there's so many of them. There's so many cool, visually exciting and terrifying fears that you can kind of bring to life that it would still be fun to do.
So I got a question for you, because there's another film out there, or something that I wanted to kind of discuss, and that is from your company as well, called Facility 31. So what is Facility 31? I mean, a guilt-ridden army prisoner, Rosie Hinton, has to lead a group of detainees to safety when a cleanup of the abandoned facility unleashes a sinister secret. So what is? It doesn't really get into much detail. If it 88 minutes sounds like it's a horror film, but was it, or is it a series, or was it for a pilot for like an anthology?
Yeah. No, so yeah, it's a trilogy of movies. It's not the one we're actually making next. So it was kind of like, the idea for Facility 31 is it starts off with a smaller story and then gets bigger as we go along. So it just kind of expands, the horror. Again, a lot of taking on my experiences being in the military and, the taking the misfits of the military, putting them in taking them from the prison, and then kind of having this idea where, people are kind of forgotten about if they've been deemed bad. When you get told off in the military, it's a little bit different than you would do in normal civvy street, as they call it. And, you get punished in very weird ways in the army. Maybe not now, but you did when I was in anyway. And, it was just kind of taking that and just having a fun idea and saying, well, there's these abandoned facilities, which there are plenty of around the UK, and, people, the government are still doing them up and selling them off. And I thought, what if, we take a bunch of prisoners that have to go in and clean up a facility before it gets, sold off for housing, and there's actually something rather dark and nasty in there.
Yeah, actually, it sounds like that could be like a creep show kind of TV show, anthology series. That'd be interesting.
Yeah. It's nice hearing those ideas, because you come up with these ideas yourself, and then when you sort of pitch them to other people, getting their feedback is always, it's really important. I love that, because you kind of go, I never thought that. That's a really good idea, actually.
And they can kind of, like they find this basement and in different little areas where different little like experiments and like things running around, and could be interesting, in my opinion. I mean, but
thank you. No, that's absolutely
10%. No, I'm kidding.
You can never please all the people all the time, so you're just trying to find the right audience, aren't you? What would you like, and what do you want to see, and stuff like that, and. Which is how we got onto the next movie that we're going to make. We're shooting in July, August this year.
Well, you know what? I'm on my last hard break here. So that's a great lead in. So everybody's going to have to wait on bated breath to find out what this new project that is shooting in July and August. And we'll find out right after this break. More with Mr. David Creed. He is the writer and director of Sacrilege, which is out on VOD in the US and Canada this Tuesday. So definitely, if you have nothing better to do and you want to go and check it out, do so if you like horror movies. And we'll also get into, I will recap my notes from our review of Sacrilege with Tony Sanfilippo earlier. And so still more conversation to come, still more show, so don't go anywhere. Pop Culture Kaboom's radio show will return right after this. Welcome back to Pop Culture Kaboom's radio show. Everything you want, everything you need in pop culture entertainment. Mr. Creed, by chance, were you listening to the show over there in England before coming on the air?
I must admit, I wasn't, unfortunately. It's so early over here. Actually, I did set my alarm probably about 10 minutes before we came on.
Oh, no worries. Just so you know, the way I do our movie segment, I have a film critic. His name is Tony Sanfilippo. He does Sanfilippo's horrible movie reviews. And so we were talking about the films that were coming out this week. Aside from Sacrilege, what also was released was Phobias, Doors, Zack Snyder's Justice League, and Slacks. And we kind of try and what we do is we watch the trailers, Tony and I, and then from the trailer viewing, we read the synopsis because obviously it's a radio show. It's all audio. We can't show the videos or the trailers, so we read the synopsis and then compare the two, and give our opinions. And mind you, it's all tongue in cheek. So it's meant to be humorous to a degree. And I even say, right off the bat, we sit through some of the most hideous trailers that ever made, and we'll read the synopsis of the film, then give you our opinions before giving you its rating from Pop Culture Kaboom's carefully crafted and patented rating system. Bear in mind, I am not a professional movie critic. I'm just an overly opinionated blowhard. And that sets it up right there. Now, the rating system that I came up with is if it's a good movie, you choose to see it in a theater. And that is to be determined by the person who actually goes. And if they choose to see it, it's not a great movie. It's just considered good. And, you'll see it in the theater if you want to. It's a so-so if if you want to see it in your town's cheap theater or as a matinee. If it is worth watching on Netflix or as a Redbox rental, it is considered a blah. And if it is so awful you should wait for it to be on public television, it's considered a touch brown. Because it's FCC regulated radio, touch brown means it's a pile of excrement. So right. It's a touch brown. So, but because of the whole pandemic thing, and things not coming out in theaters, we kind of had to curtail it a little bit. So actually a blah for months was the highest rating we could give a show because we knew it wouldn't be going into theaters because theaters were closed. So just to kind of, give you a little bit of where I'm coming from with all of this. So again, everything's said in tongue-in-cheek. So we read the synopsis, which I pull off of Rotten Tomatoes, and I believe I read it in the beginning, but just in case, let me do it again. Excuse me. So, after accepting an invitation to join in the local celebrations for the summer solstice, 4 young women find themselves into grips of a mysterious pagan cult. They are offered up as a sacrifice to the cult's mysterious ancient goddess who has the ability to sense their greatest fears. Using this power against them, she turns their nightmares into a horrifying reality. And now this is what I wrote as far as after watching the trailer and, reading the synopsis. Oh, girls, they just want to have fun. Haunted by a cult's horrible arts and craft creation and resurfacing childhood traumas and phobias, the 4 party girls living in their party world must face all manner of weird and nightmarish things. Not quite sure why or how they allowed themselves to be offered up as a pagan god. I think there would have been at least some sort of consent to the whole thing. I mean, you don't just show up to a rager and suddenly tag you're a ritual offering, but I digress. Creepy and intriguing enough to watch, so I'd give it a blah. Because here in the U.S., it is going to be on video on demand, so blah is the highest rating it could get. Mm-hmm. So, but that was my thoughts on it. But like I said, we kind of keep it kind of tongue in cheek. So kind of that's why the reference to the Cyndi Lauper song and the Aqua Barbie world. I'm a Barbie girl living in a Barbie world, so party girl living in a party world. But was there any kind of?
I feel that's a very I like that. I think someone. I saw a review over here that someone said that it was a cross. There's a soap opera over here called Hollyoaks, which I guess is kind of like maybe like Days of Our Lives or something like that over in the States.
Wow, something I would never watch.
And they said it was a cross between. Yeah, it was kind of exactly. It was, but it's over here. Hollyoaks is a very popular kind of teen soap. And they said it was it was like the cast of Hollyoaks walking in on the Wicker Man, and I thought that was hilarious. And I was like, do you know what? I'll take that. That's kind of funny. And because that's pretty much it. But no, thanks for saying that.
Well, like I said, it's tongue in cheek. I mean, all we can go off of though is the trailer. So a minute and 45 seconds is, sure. You got to kind of make it humorous because it's not really enough time to determine whether or not a movie is going to be good anyway. And, at least, with some movies, I've noticed that, with a blockbuster, at least when they were into theaters before this whole pandemic thing, they would release a trailer, right? and then, a month later they'd release another trailer, but it was basically the same footage that they already showed. And that kind of tells me that if they're going to show the same stuff in a trailer, preceding trailers, that's all the good stuff that's actually in the movie. You know what I mean? So I only saw one trailer for Sacrilege. So, that's all I had to go off of. But
yeah, I think because you guys have got the first release, so our sales agent has released in the US first. So I think, from my understanding, is that different territories want different trailers and bits and pieces. That's the trailer that you guys have got is the third version. So we did like our own version when we had it playing in the theatres in the UK, and then there was another version that the sales agent had that they put together to use as a sales tool for distributors, and then the final version, which is what you guys have got. So it's gone through 3 different iterations.
Well, the ones I like really watching, especially with horror movies, is the Red Band trailer. When they release that, because that it's not edited for content. It'll show scenes that are just gory or profanity laden or even some nudity sometimes. So I enjoy more watching the Red Band trailers than the theatrical release trailer, because that's kind of edited for G rating for trailer wise, as far as trailers go. But so this July and August, you're going to be filming the next project for Bad Blood Films. Is this written by you or? Yeah, written by me, directed by me again, and produced by Mark Kenner again. It's called The Ripper's Ghost. And it's about a young college girl who is grieving over the loss of her father, and then she gets some belongings from his family, and she doesn't realise that they are the original belongings of Jack the Ripper. And in her quest to kind of grab onto anything that was her father, she kind of dives into this big box and releases Jack the Ripper's rather vengeful spirit, who comes out and kind of carries on his killing spree. So does it delve into the whole, or is Jack the Ripper something that you've studied or thought about, or how much research did you get into with that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm originally from that kind of area. There was lots of stories about it. I mean, my granddad, when he used to stay at his place, and would tell me if I didn't behave, Jack the Ripper would come and get me, which is probably psychologically damaging.
Thanks for the therapy.
Exactly. She owes me some money for therapy. But it's always fascinated me, I guess, because he's never been caught, and every now and again you get people go, "Oh, I know who Jack the Ripper is," and then someone else goes, "No, it can't be them because of this," and so I think there's always a fascination for those kind of characters. And it was also something that we knew that we could do well. We have all those kind of locations over here, and there's still a big fascination with it. And again, learning a lot from making Sacrilege. So the scares are ramped up. There's more scares, there's more kills, there's more blood, there's more kind of more of everything.
Wow. So with it being kind of a centering around Jack the Ripper, is there going to be any kind of a what's the best way to phrase it? Flashbacks, so to speak, to the previous.
You mean slashback?
Yeah, slashbacks. Oh, that's punny, Bill. Good one.
There you go. So you're talking about stealing stuff from us. I'm stealing that from you. That's it. Flashback. I'm having that.
Still, he gets 10%.
And there is. Yeah.
Slashback. That was a good one.
Yeah.
So is there anything like that, or do you kind of develop your own theory as to, or you put forth your own theory about who Jack the Ripper was and what actually?
Yeah. So I kind of, I think the thing is you can't, you have to look at what people believe to be, Jack the Ripper in the way he looks. So there was this, theory that he was the medical doctor or something for the Queen or something like that. I can't remember, but that look of the top hat and the kind of doctor's bag and the cloak and all that. So we've got that, and then I made up a backstory about who he was and where he came from and why he was doing it, and kind of put all that in there. And we've got one of the guys, a designer called Luca Demolotto, and he's worked on Marvel movies, and fun enough, he did Shape of Water for Guillermo del Toro, doing all these designs of the creatures and everything, and he came on board and helped me realise the actual look of Jack the Ripper. So I wanted this kind of iconic-looking, scary face mask thing. So we've got that, and there's a story behind how that gets, why he's got that on, and so we sort of delve into that, and we start the movie in Victorian England and show him as, killing his last victim, Mary Kelly, and what he's doing with that. Because the whole thing that fascinated me was why there were body parts missing. Why did Jack the Ripper take body parts out? It was, no one knows. So we kind of play on that, and there's a reason why he did that. And so we get a mixture between the kind of Victorian England and modern England.
Awesome. This sounds like it'll be very entertaining, and I'm sure it's going to stir up the whole Jack the Ripper theories again on who he was and why he did what he did and why he was never caught. So,
I know, maybe I'm right, and I just landed on it by complete fluke.
Hey, you never know, and then everybody's going to look to you like some kind of super detective. So there you go.
Yeah.
And then they'll think it's a documentary, which would be really weird. But
oh my God, yeah.
So when with the filming schedule being July, August, when do you think this film might be out?
Well, we're already looking at a February, March, release in the UK, again theatrically. We are aiming to get this out theatrically, and who we've been speaking to believes that there's potential for this to go theatrically in the States as well, so that would be amazing. Whether that's around the same time or not, I don't know, because I know the whole landscape's changing now. The window between theatrical and DVD and VOD, etc., is massively shortened now. So we're still in those talks, but I think general release hopefully February, March.
So do you plan on attending when this movie does come out, since you're looking at about February, March of 2022? Can you see, are you going to be doing any kind of promotion or going to any, say, like I know in New Jersey on the East Coast, they have the New Jersey Horror Con. In Texas, they also have a horror con. There's one that travels around called, what is it called? It was basically like a Walking Dead or a Dead Con. I know in Sacramento here on the West Coast, there's the Sinister Creature Con. Will you be going around to or doing any appearances at any upcoming conventions or anything like that?
Yeah, that's definitely the plan. Again, because thankfully Sacrilege has done okay for us, so we've already got a sales agent on board for Ripper's Ghost, which we didn't have for Sacrilege. We had to get that afterwards. So we've already got a sales agent, and that's part of the plan of what we've been talking to other distributors about. Thankfully, hopefully, when COVID allows us to get out, we're going to be coming over to the States and going to as many festivals as we can.
Well, I definitely hope to see you here. We do have a film festival here in the Reno area of Reno, Nevada, called the Cordillera International Film Festival. And but those are mostly for short films, though, unfortunately. But I would love to see, if somebody in the sound of my voice wants to do a horror movie or even just any kind of a real film festival, because I'd like to see the Reno area kind of be like a mecca for all kinds of pop culture, events and so forth in our area. Yes,
you mean
Bill?
Oasis?
Oasis, yes, an oasis in the high desert of Nevada.
Right.
And so, I would love to, I'd love to meet you in person and have you come down here for that and, see what the Reno, because Reno is a great area for filming too, just by the way. because you got everything here, and everything's within 30 minutes. You got desolate desert, and Lake Tahoe's like 30 minutes away, and you got a big city in Reno, so you got everything here to film any kind of movie you want. Just saying.
Well, it's funny you say that, because we've actually got a movie called The Crowman, which is kind of a throwback to kind of Children of the Corn meets Candyman, and that is set exclusively in the States, and that's one of the movies that we're trying to get made over the next couple of years.
Definitely pencil in Reno.
Yeah, I'd love to come and see you guys in person.
Yeah, and I'd have you in the studio too. Well, sir, unfortunately, I'm at the end of my show. Please hang on the line. I want to talk to you as soon as we are off air here.